All right, everybody. Welcome back for another USMNT Top 10. A week in which Giovanni Reyna, I believe, contributed greatly to his hopes of one day being able to play for a giant club not club, franchise of MLS LLC, the Mickey Mouse League, LA Galaxy. Guys, one day, I'm not saying he's ready yet for the Galaxy. I'm just saying if he keeps performing like this for Dortmund, maybe one day he will be able to play for such a great club. So, no, all that to say, Giovanni Reyna actually had a really good week. He played better against Barcelona, definitely, but wasn't able to get, register a goal contribution. And honestly, didn't play that great against Hoffenheim, if we're being honest. And I have some thoughts on that I'll get to when we talk about Gio Reyna. But that Golazo was great for the fan base. It was great for his haters, who have all of a sudden become very quiet this week because they were very, very loud. It was also very good for his confidence and for our continued faith in him going forward, provided he can stay healthy, right? Shafaro Alfin says, we need Landon to jinx our other players who are struggling. I know, right? It's like whoever Landon says should come back to the Galaxy. Instant fear in their heart. They're like, oh my God, no, please, no. I don't want to do that. I better start performing. But it is quite funny to see Landon Donovan. And let's not just smash Landon. Let's smash Alexi Lalas too, because Alexi also did the same thing. He wrote a whole article. Let's be honest, Alexi did not write the article. Alexi gave a few talking points to a staffer at Fox, and the staffer wrote it and put it in his name. Okay, if you know how this shit works. But it was under Alexi's name, also endorsing the idea that Giovanni Reyna needs to come to the LA Galaxy. I'm just going to say something here at the beginning of the stream. The shill media is so insecure because they are terrified of us going into 2026 without a single USMNT player on the roster, or perhaps one or two who will not play, which is very, very, very likely. But the problem is MLS has a lot of problems right now. Nobody's watching. By their own admission, nobody is watching, okay? And there are two quick, interesting points I'm going to deal with, and then we'll move into the top 10. Don Garber admitted over MLS Cup weekend that they get 1 million people watching. 1 million people watching MLS on any given Saturday, okay? And then he said, I believe he said the total number of games, or the combined views of all the games on a Saturday. And people go, oh, 1 million. I mean, 1 million's not amazing, but it sounds pretty good, right? Until you realize that there are 14 games being played on a Saturday. So on average, the math comes out to about 72,000 people watching per game. 72,000. The MLS Cup final, despite having the two biggest cities in America being represented in the MLS Cup final, had terrible ratings. And listen, getting Giovanni Reyna here isn't going to solve your problems. Even getting Pulisic here isn't going to solve your problems. You have freaking Messi and nobody's watching. So instead of focusing on we got to try and drag some American players home in order to cover for our insecurities about our league being shit, maybe you should work on your league not being shit. Maybe you should work on getting people to care about your league. Maybe you should work on the way you spend money, how you spend money, how much you spend. Maybe you should work on having some actual stakes, because 70% of the teams making the playoffs and no promotion relegation doesn't call for a lot of stakes. There's a lot of reasons why, continuing to refuse to participate in Open Cup. They're saying they're going to have more teams this year, but still not all, even though that goes strictly against the USSF professional league standards, requiring all your teams to play in MLS. You're just turning fans off. Over the Apple deal hasn't helped for sure. But I'll tell you what, if you had a good league, people would pay for it on Apple TV. And yet they're not. And it has never been more clear. Okay? So all the MLS fanboys, let's we got to Landon's like, got to bring some Americans home. No, we don't. We want them far away from that Mickey Mouse League. Thank you very much. We're actually trying to be a good national team and try to accomplish something here. And we don't need our guys playing here at home. So Giovanni Reyna reminded everybody that the last thing he needs to ever do is go to the LA Galaxy or any other MLS team. And if anything, if any argument needs to be made for him to have, a move, it would be a move below Dortmund, but plenty of teams that could still use him that are far above anything in MLS. Okay. So Daniel Rivera, this is actually a really good point. Okay. Daniel Rivera says Gio didn't have a good game. He took a good shot. There's a difference. That is correct. Two things. And I'm going to talk about this more in depth. I actually thought he played better against Barcelona. Okay. But when you say that on Twitter, what happens is, oh, he actually played quite well today. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. That's what the Gio haters on Twitter say. And then he scores a Golazo against Hoffenheim and doesn't play very well, to be honest, in most of the game. Then they go, oh, see, now he had an impact. That's better. It's like he actually had an impact in the other game too, right? So I'll talk about this more when we get to Giovanni Reyna. But you're right. He didn't actually play that well today. Let's jump into the top 10. But before we do, don't forget to smash that like button. How many likes are we at right now, guys? Over 150 people watching, 160 people watching right now, and only 28 likes. Let's see if we can bump that. Let's see if we can bump that up to 60, 50 or 60 at least. Brenden Aaronson. So just to be clear, there is no top 10 today because there's so many guys injured. There is no 10. Unless somebody has a good idea for a 10th one that actually performed well today and want to stick them in there, fine. But I don't really see anybody that I consider worthy of making the top 10 this week. So it is actually a top 9. Damian Downs, great one. My actual criteria for being in a USMNT top 10 is that you cannot be actively representing another country. Damian Downs is playing for Germany's under 21s. It's the same reason Nathaniel Brown is not in it, right? He is cannot play. He's playing for Germany's under 21s. Luca Kogliosho, although he wouldn't make top 10 anytime this year, is playing for Italy's under 21s. So if you're playing for another country, you can't make a USMNT top 10. Has he ever been capped? Judgmental Deity, he did play a few friendlies for the Olympic team, but we had to bring MLS substitute and Tronco in chief, Mr. Duncan McGuire instead. We should have brought Damian Downs because he was useless during the Olympics and has generally been useless this MLS season as well. But don't get me started on that ridiculous Olympic roster that we brought. So you have, guys like Nathaniel Brown, Luca Kogliosho, Damian Downs. These guys are just not eligible. But Brenden Aaronson did score against Middlesbrough. It was a decent little tap in that was actually mostly set up for him by Tanaka, but still a good finish. 1 goal, 1 chance created, and 3 total shots. Now, the rest of Brenden Aaronson's performance was a little bit more accurate to what we know about Brenden Aaronson. 0 out of 3 successful dribbles, 0 out of 2 accurate crosses, 0 out of 1 accurate long ball, 0 tackles won, 3 out of 10 ground duels won, 0 aerial duels won. Look, he is a spirited guy, Brenden Aaronson, and he's always trying to hang in. And you know what? Credit to him for continuing to try and continuing to stay. And he is getting goal contributions in the championship. And he is pushing himself to the highest possible level that he can play at. And so we should applaud that because that's the mentality that we want from all of our guys. He could come back to MLS right now, get a big, fat DP contract, play in Philadelphia, maybe somewhere else if he wanted to, and he would be very, very good in MLS. But no, he went from, Salzburg to Leeds and then, Union Berlin now and then back to Leeds. He didn't really do much against Preston, Thomas. That's why it's not really here. We're mostly highlighting his game against Middlesbrough. He was not good against Preston either. But look, good for him for continuing to push himself and trying to play at the highest possible level he can. I don't know what's going to happen to him if Leeds get promoted because he's not a Premier League level player. But it'll be interesting to see. At least he's trying this season. He's there. He is only ever going to be so good. But this was the goal, by the way, as Best sketched out. The ball was played to Tanaka, and the goalkeeper came out to Tanaka, and he just tapped it to Brenden Aaronson, who sort of stumbled over it into the net. So well done to Brenden Aaronson there. Number 8 is Joseph Scally versus Holstein Kiel in the Bundesliga. They ended up winning this game 4-1. He played 86 minutes, 90% passing accuracy, 2 out of 3 successful dribbles, 5 out of 7 tackles, 1 and 2 fouls drawn. Number 7 today is Alejandro Zendejas versus Monterrey, the Liga MX final first leg. 1 goal, 1, I will say, assist, and you'll see why I say that. But 4 chances created, which is a match high. 1 out of 4 successful dribbles, 1 out of 2 accurate crosses, 3 out of 4 accurate long balls, 4 out of 8 ground duels, 1 and 2 fouls drawn. Now, he's had a very good season for, Club America. The problem is that for the national team, he's never really performed. Now, you can say, well, Pete, has he ever really been given a chance? It feels like maybe he gets 10 to 15 minutes from time to time in a friendly game, and that's fair. But I think the way that most fans are judging him was on that Gold Cup last year, because that is when he had a long stretch of games and he was abysmal. So it's hard to get too excited about anything he does for club until he starts doing it for country. And that's the same for a guy like Chris Richards or Malik Tillman or Josh Sargent, right? I think for Zendejas, I think the next step for him is go to Europe. There were rumors about him going to Porto in January, which I would be all for. I think the Portuguese league is a good interim league between the top 5, right? Both Portugal and the Netherlands, and even the championship for certain players, are good interim leagues. Lewis Bronson says Liga MX is better than the English championship. My friend, it really, really is not. Trust me. I think he needs to go. I really do. I think he needs to go. I think he is sort of reached his ceiling in Liga MX, and it's time to leave. Time to leave. This is the assist, okay? It was shot at the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper punched it out, and he tried to hit it on target, and he completely sliced it. He completely sliced it into the path of Kevin Alvarez. It was an accident. He was trying to shoot it, but it did manage to pop into Kevin Alvarez's path, who then finished it. This was a really nice goal, though. It was played nicely to him between the lines. He took 1 touch on the turn, which created just enough space for him to go and finish that into the far post. This will be on Patreon this afternoon or this evening. So you'll see the actual goal itself. A really, really nice goal. So yeah, time to go. Time to move. I would say the Netherlands or the Portuguese league would be the places for him to go. Mark McKenzie of Toulouse played 90 minutes, 90% passing accuracy, 7 passes into the final third. They ended up winning this game 2-1, and I believe that they are 8th now or 7th in the French league because they've been climbing this table. Yeah, they're 8th. They're 8th, so they could be pushing for Europe. And by the way, they're only 6 points off of 3rd. They're only 6 points off of 3rd, and they are only 3 points off of pushing for a Conference League spot. They're 4 points away from a Europa League spot, and they are only 6 points away from a Champions League spot. So they're kind of on the ascendancy, and Mark McKenzie has been a big part of that in their back 3. 1 clearance, 3 interceptions, 6 recoveries, 1 out of 1 ground duels, 1, 2 out of 2 aerial duels, 1, and 1 foul drawn. At least we have 1 center back performing at a high level. It used to be Richards. Richards has been benched. He was not on the bench today. Some people freaked out. Turns out he had a baby today. So that is understandable that he was not on the bench for Palace. But he does need to win his starting spot back because ever since the injury, it's, he hasn't been able to win a starting spot back. Yes, he had a baby. I mean, he did not have a baby, as in he did not push it out of his uterus. His partner, his wife or his partner, I don't know if they're married, had a baby. And so he was at the hospital becoming a father. So congratulations to him. Number 5, Jonathan Cardoso. It's not actually his name. His name is João, but we call him Johnny. Johnny Cardoso played 90 minutes, 90% passing accuracy, 6 clearances, 5 interceptions, 11 recoveries, 3 out of 10 ground duels, 1 and 2 fouls drawn. Now, these stats don't really tell. He did not play against Saint Etienne. Okay. He played against Atletico. That is a typo from the previous one. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure it was Villarreal. I'm sorry, Villarreal. Villarreal, not Saint Etienne. They were down 10 men for most of this game, and he was mostly defending for his life and helping them to protect that 2-1 lead, which they eventually did get. So it was another, and look, he just came back from injury too. He just came back from injury and is only now starting to, or is very quickly getting into the starting lineup again. So really good to see Johnny Cardoso playing well. It's not in League One, a one-game loan spell to Ligue 1. Yeah, no, he's doing really well. They're in 9th now, pushing for a European spot. Why not? They got to keep it going over the course of the season, but he's a starter. Both of our 6s, probably Adams will probably start against Bournemouth tomorrow, so it's good to see both of our 6s doing so well. Timothy Weah against Juventus got a assist against Manchester City, for Juventus. Played only 21 minutes, was not a goal, was an assist, and only had 4 out of 6 accurate passes. But what an assist it was. McKennie was the one who played him down the line. He tried to cross it. First cross was blocked. He spotted McKennie unmarked in the box, and he chipped it perfectly for him to volley at home, just like it says here, or just like it shows here. So this, obviously, we're going to use this for both McKennie and Weah because both of them got a goal contribution against Manchester City. I believe it was actually Weah's stats. These are supposed to be McKennie's stats, not Weah's. 1 goal, 4 out of 6 accurate passes, played 21 minutes. 1 goal. And by the way, McKennie also helped to set up the goal himself because it was in transition. He had the really nice ball over the top for Timothy Weah and then continued his run and made himself available to finish. Neither of them, unfortunately, looked that good against Venezia this last weekend. So that game doesn't factor in for their top 10 because they didn't look great. But if you have a game like this against Manchester City, you're going to make the top 10. And I think Tim Weah is now at 7 goal contributions on the season, and McKennie is at 6. So they both are doing well enough. I think 10 goal contributions last year was McKennie's contribution to Juve, and I think Weah had 3 or 4. And by the way, Weah's best ever season was 8 goals for Lille in the 2021-22 season, I believe. Or no, it was 2021. That was his best ever season for Lille. So he already has 7, so he's only 1 goal contribution off, which he could get before the winter break. And then they have a whole second half of the season. Now, Juve is not doing very well, unfortunately. And it's not all these guys' fault. There's a lot of other issues with Juve, and same with Milan, by the way. Both of them doing quite poorly. Can't see either of them mounting a serious title challenge here. But mostly what we care about is how our guys perform within the mechanisms of these teams. And more importantly, that then translates to the national team. And obviously, that is the same goal. Let's talk about the man himself, Giovanni Reyna of Borussia Dortmund, BVB, as my girlfriend calls them. Played two starts. 2 starts this week, guys. Against Barcelona, played 73 minutes. He was really good against Barcelona. He was a constant threat with balls over the top and balls in behind. Was he very good defensively? No. Has Gio ever been very good defensively? No. But I thought he was a consistent threat. Some of his balls would have probably translated into goals, but were called just offside. Just offside. Now, some of that is on Gio, but some of it's also on the runner with his timing. What I look for, because the way that you can project long-term is, can you consistently be dangerous? Are you consistently a threat? And against Barcelona, he was. Now, for some people, that's not good enough. They go, no, he needs to be scoring goals and assists in his first start of the season. Otherwise, he is a finished player at age 22. And I say no. What I need to see is that he consistently plays well and regularly enough contributes to goals and assists. And, then he goes and starts against Hoffenheim on the weekend, played 76 minutes, scored a beautiful Golazo, which we'll see in just a minute. But again, defensively was all over the place. Not just defensively, at times way too passive on the ball, on both sides of the ball. he would receive the ball in a dangerous area and pass it sideways or backwards, or would take too long to make a decision on the ball. There was actually another sequence where he could have gotten another assist. He was played into the channel, and if he had just crossed it quickly to, I think it was Bino Gittins, or maybe it was Gerasi, I don't remember. Anyways, he could have crossed it, but he tried to cut it onto his right, and then it was stolen off of him. So he's still not fully sharp, and you can see that. But I think also, if you haven't played 2 games in a week or started 2 games in a week for a long time, I think it took a toll on him. I think the 73 minutes against Barcelona definitely impacted his 76 minutes against Hoffenheim, because he didn't look up for it against Hoffenheim. That being said, the goal that he scored against Hoffenheim was a really good one. And I hope that, can build his confidence. And as his fitness continues to improve, and hopefully his confidence improves, great. Then maybe he can get more starts, or at least more consistent minutes, sometimes starting and sometimes coming off the bench. It's going to require staying fit. Obviously, he's getting those opportunities because Julian Brandt is injured. So that's a big help. But Julian Brandt's going to be back at some point. Now, Dortmund only has one more game before their winter break, and that is on the 22nd. And then they don't play again until January 10th. So hopefully Gio can recover over the course of this week. And then when we get to January 10th, he can have a really good game. So this was a cross from Jamie Bino Gittins. It was headed right to Giovanni Reyna's chest, actually. They headed it right to his chest. So he took it down with his chest and then volleyed it under some pressure here. A really nice volley from the edge of the box into the top corner. Dortmund should have won this game 1-0, but long after Gio was pulled in the 73rd minute, Hoffenheim equalized to continue Dortmund's not great season. And they're having a lot of injuries, too. It's not just Giovanni Reyna. Adeyemi has struggled with injuries. Brandt struggled with injuries. Bayer has struggled with injuries. Schlotterbeck has struggled with injuries. Their other defender, Niklas Schüle, injury. Ryerson, injuries. Kuto came off today with an injury. There's a lot going on with Dortmund, man. But I'm mostly focused on Gio getting minutes, right? Because 2 starts in a week definitely says, look, they didn't have to start him today. They could have started, what's his name? Who they got from Leipzig, whose name instantly escapes me. Shit, who's the other? You guys know it. The midfielder they got from Leipzig, who's been starting over him all season, right? They have Gross there easily. And then they have, come on, you guys know what who I'm talking about. What's his name? How is his name just completely escaping me all of a sudden? It's not Gross. Oh my God. Not Gross. He was on the bench today. Gross started. You guys know who I'm talking about. Okay, this is going to bother me if I don't look it up. Sabitzer. Thank you. Marcel Sabitzer. Marcel Sabitzer, Pascal Gross, and Giovanni Reyna. No, Sabitzer was on the bench. Giovanni Reyna started next to them, next to Gross. So they could have started Sabitzer, but they clearly gave him the opportunity both against Barcelona and today. And I think they saw that, look, he was good enough against Barcelona to give him another opportunity. And even though he didn't have a great game, he still scored the winner. Well, it would have been the winner. Scored the goal that gave them 1 point, right? So let's see now what he does. He has a week of rest and then one more game, hopefully another start before we get, and then a rest for him and, stay fit, keep his body healthy, but he needs a run of games in order to get back into that rhythm again, right? It was also very slippery, very wet. It was raining today. Nobody was going into a full out sprint. This is a great question from BMR. Do you still think Gio needs a winter move? It's a great question because up until now, we would have all said yes. But now they're starting to give him minutes, right? He came back from injury. He got 10 minutes right away, got another half an hour, got some more minutes, now has 2 starts. So it's like, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe he should just stay until the end of the season and then reevaluate his options in the summer. Now, look, if Brandt comes back, here's the problem. Brandt should be back next week. If not, Brandt will be back for all of January. So if he's not getting any minutes all of January while Brandt gets all of those minutes, then yeah, maybe towards the end of January, he could go, look, we have to, I got to get playing time here. So maybe a loan. But I don't think Dortmund are going to loan him out. I think they're going to want to keep him. I really do. They're not, from what I heard, they're not planning on bringing anybody in the winter. And so they're going to need all the reinforcements that they have. And also they keep getting injured so ridiculously frequently. Their guys get injured. So we'll see. But I don't think he's going anywhere, whether or not we think he should. And last but not least, Antonee Jedi Robinson of Full America, 2 assists versus Liverpool, 4 chances created, which was a match high, 3 out of 4 accurate crosses, 3 out of 5 tackles won, 7 out of 13 ground duels won, 1 out of 1 aerial duels won, and 1 foul drawn. This was the second assist, actually. Made a darting run into the pocket, or into the channel rather, and was able to get the cutback. And then the first assist was obviously somewhat of a better one. But both of them were good assists either way. Both of them were great assists. Great cross, great finish. 6 assists so far on the season, and doing it for very good teams. There is a chance that he could leave in the winter if Liverpool are looking for a replacement for Andy Robertson, who also, ironically, was not good. Got a red card on this day. So it'll be interesting to see. I have been very skeptical about Jedi leaving Fulham. And sometimes you have a sort of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, mentality. Because, you can go to a bigger club and think, okay, maybe your level, you can play at that level, but they're a lot more harsh with poor performances. That said, he's been growing as a player. He's become more and more consistent. So, yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, guys. Let me put it this way. I wouldn't hate it if he stayed at Fulham, but I would be excited if he went to a club like Man United or Liverpool. The thing is Man United even a big club anymore? It's a mid-table team, just like Fulham. So I don't even know. Yeah, they're big in terms of popularity, but when was the last time that they, won a really meaningful title? Are they a big club? Are Man United a big club? It's a good question. I don't know. Although they did beat Man City today, so good for them. Let's see where Man United are on the table now. Man, it's been so long since I've allowed myself to enjoy Manchester United. I used to be a big Man United fan way back when. Man City are out of the top 4. Yeah, Man United are 13th. Man United are 13th in the league still. So it's like good for them for, beating Man City today. But let's be honest, everybody's beating Man City these days. They are out of the top 4. Balance has been restored in the universe, and they will probably not make the knockout stage of the Champions League if they keep playing like they are right now. Whoop-diddy-whoop. So we'll see what happens with Antonee Robinson, but certainly his consistency has been encouraging. I am cautiously optimistic about a move, but if he ends up staying the rest of the season, I will be fine with it. Here's the thing. If Antonee Robinson moves to Liverpool and plays in the Champions League, and if Alejandro Zendejas moves to Porto and plays in the Champions League, they will be the 15th and 16th Americans to participate in the Champions League this year. Think about that. That is definitely a record that we haven't had for a very long time. And not just playing in the Champions League, but contributing, right? Pulisic contributing. Weah and McKennie contributing. Gio even contributing against Barcelona. The PSV boys, Tillman and Pepe contributing. Even Rich Ledesma contributing for, in his own way. Musa definitely playing in the Champions League, I guess contributing at times. Balogun's played in the Champions League. So there's a lot of guys. A lot of guys playing in the Champions League, and it could be 15 and number 16. It is unprecedented how many players we have playing at the levels that they are playing at in the European League. So it's exciting times. And with Poch at the helm, hopefully we will go from strength to strength. There were some encouraging performances in that Jamaica knockout 2-leg fixture. Let's see what we look like in Nations League and Gold Cup. But, those performances have made me cautiously optimistic. Mid-game for Gio standards outside of the goal. Yes, I agree. Definitely not his best game. In fact, a game, you rarely see a game like that from Gio. I'm going to put that down to a combination of fatigue from not being used to playing 2 games in a week, and also perhaps the rainy conditions. But overall, it was a poor game regardless, right? He has to be better, because if he plays like that one more time, he probably won't start again. I did see this, and this is why Dempsey will continue to be the GOAT. Did you see Carragher mock Donovan by asking Dempsey if McKennie and Weah should play in the MLS after their performances against Juve? You mean against Manchester City? Yeah, but he also talked about Giovanni Reyna when he played against Barcelona, and Dempsey was like, I think, this was Dempsey. He's like, well, I mean, I think that Gio ought to be, a guy that plays at a high level for a Champions League club. And then Kate Abdo, who I love, by the way, was like, but why do you think Landon Donovan said that? Do you think that perhaps because he played in MLS and, that there might be a bit of a bias there? And then Demble's like, well, I do think that at times he puts on his MLS hat a bit. But for me, Gio should stay, where he belongs, with a Champions League club. His primary issue has been injuries, and I think when he's not injured, he is that caliber of a player. And then, okay, so you're saying that, playing 300 games in the MLS would not have happened anyways because he'd have been injured, whether he was playing in the MLS or whether he was playing in Bundesliga. Well, I'm not saying that. I didn't say that. I'm saying that he is that caliber of a player, and I want him to stay there. And it's nice. Thank God that we have one reasonable voice left, almost, or very few left. I think Clint is one of the only reasonable ones left of the pundits, the former national team players who have become pundits and sold out to MLS LLC. Howard is now sold out. Alexi Lalas, we all know, long time ago. No Carter Vickers, won against Rangers and player of the match in Champions League. Okay. That is a fair point. Player of the match in the Champions League. Yeah, I could have, you guys might be right. I could have brought CCV. I did see the first goal against, was it today? Against Rangers. Him and Trusty were way too far apart for Rangers to score, and conceding 3 goals to Rangers, I'll be honest, guys, that is a little bit embarrassing. But he probably could have made the top 10. If anything, that is my bad. Oh, and Eric Winalda. Yeah, but Eric Winalda is kind of all over the place, Anthony. Sometimes he's just like, makes a lot of sense what he's saying, and then sometimes you're just like, what? So, but Dempsey seems to consistently be, Trusty got pulled at halftime. Dempsey seems to be consistently on the side of growth and progress and doing what's best for the player and for the national team program and not being a Don Garber dick sucker. So good for Dempsey. Couple of names here. I'm not going to agree with you on all of these, but most of them are not pundits. Dempsey, yes. Miola, I'll be honest, I've seen some bad takes from Miola as well on the CBS crew. Hugo Perez is not really a pundit right now. Bob Bradley is coaching in Norway. Jermaine Jones used to be very outspoken, and more recently, because he wanted to get a job, started saying all of the right things. So I was more talking about the ones that have actually become pundits and have just run their mouth with absolute nonsense takes. Last one, Jar says, any comment on the Jesus Ferreira to Sounders rumors? MLS is Jesus Ferreira's level, okay? But if they're trying to bring him there as a 9 to replace Rui Diaz, I will remind them that even Dallas replaced him as a 9. Dallas didn't even play him as a 9 this year. He was a winger, tucked-in winger. MLS is his level, 24-year-old. He's not Raul Rui Diaz, never will be Raul Rui Diaz. And if the Sounders think, they're also going after his buddy Paul Arriola. So if they think they are going to play in the Club World Cup with a front 3 of Jesus Ferreira, Paul Arriola, and Jordan Morris, they can. They're going to get destroyed because, I don't know why they're trying to become USMNT Rejects FC because they already have Roldan and Morris on their roster. But if they want to bring Arriola and Ferreira in, great. FC Dallas will be laughing all the way to the bank. By the way, Arriola, 4 and 4. 8 goal contributions. 8 goal contributions for Dallas last year. These guys aren't even really that good in MLS anymore, right? So a lot of them are still running on Greg's favoritism. That's the perception of them is higher than it should be because of all the favoritism that Greg showed them for so many years. But, hey, get in with the boss and get paid. Wait for a talentless player to get paid. Get in with the right bald fraud, and you never know. You never know what can happen. Jar says, I am surprised Arriola is still playing. I mean, he could play in MLS. He's not a DP. He's not a very good player, even in MLS. He was Cardio Merchant FC, 100%. Always has been. Always has been. But, again, perception changes because if Berhalter thinks you're good, a lot of the media is like, well, he's got to be good. So, yeah, Morris at least produced for the Sounders last season. Didn't he get 19 goals or something? Or 19 goal contributions total? At least Morris is still performing for the Sounders. But Ferreira and Arriola, I'm not so sure about. But, I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really impact the U.S. much anymore. They're not relevant to the U.S. Although Ferreira might be called up for Camp Cupcake. Oh, run it back. He's going to score an accidental goal off of his butt against Venezuela, and people's going to be like, still has something to offer to the national team. Nathaniel Brown, last one. Nathaniel Brown did score a really nice goal against Leipzig today as a left back. I think he's already got 5 goal contributions or three goals this year playing in the Bundesliga. Unfortunately, we did not get him early, and so he's now very much on Germany's radar and has accepted under 21 call-ups. So personally, from what I've heard from Edgar Moreno, who's generally pretty good sources, he's actually interested in playing for the U.S., but is waiting for Poch to come talk to him. And I don't know what's happening with that. I would say if you want to play for the U.S., just call Poch and be like, I'd love to play. But all this starts with, Christopher Lund. Christopher Lund, who's not even a starter for Palermo right now. Greg chose him. And what we've seen from Lund so far has not been great. And clearly Palermo agrees because he doesn't even start in Serie B. Now, I know Poch said he doesn't want to recruit, but if there's any time to recruit now, it's Henri Chase and Nathaniel Brown. Albert says, Pete, it'll be Herc pushing for Jesus. Does Herc like Jesus? I didn't know that. I'm not sure. And then Palermo lost, LOL. Ojar says, hey, Lund started today, and then Judgmental Deity says, and then Palermo lost. Have you been following Figueroa at all? Felt like he was a high prospect some months ago. He's still in Liverpool's academy, so it's hard to track academy players. Now, when I saw him play for the U17s, I wasn't as impressed with Figueroa as some people were. I thought he was a little limited. But I'm not really tracking him. I'll track him when he starts playing at a decent level, like a pro level somewhere. Because he's also not like 50. He's not like Kevin Sullivan or, Mathis Albert, who are doing what they're doing at age 15. He's doing it at 18, 19, whatever, Let's see how old Figueroa is now. He's at least 18. I think he's more. So if you're still 18 and you're still in a academy league, that's fine. But usually really high ceiling players tend to break out at 18, particularly attackers. Yeah, he's 18 years old. I'm not saying he's never going to be a good player or never have a good career. He may very well. But from watching him, I was never like, oh my God, this kid is going to be an absolute baller. I was like, yeah, this kid has some potential. Let's see how the rest of his career goes. So I'm just going to kind of wait for him to go play at a pro level and just kind of watch how he does there. All right, guys, have a great rest of your week. Smash that like button before you go. Smash subscribe if you are new. And we'll talk to y'all soon.